Welcome to ALPOUGH. I am an adult of my spirit. I'm an adult of my mind. I'm an adult of my thought. And I'm an adult of my love. And right now I'm sending you love. Happy Tuesday here. And I hope you're having a great Tuesday. Today, it's a different subject I thought that I would get into today, and it's how I grew up. I guess it's some of you don't even know me. Some of you know me as all kinds of different people. Okay. And so, but I think as we go forward, you should have just an idea of who I am. And those of you who are coming in, I want to welcome you here. Those who will be coming in now and those who will be coming in later. Let me adjust my head here. And so I think it's very important that you, if you don't know me, or if you did know me at one time, to see, you may not have known what happened to me and how I actually grew up. And did I have a normal childhood? I don't even know what that means. I think all of us know that our own normal, okay, what our normal actually means, okay. And so this was my normal. I'm not going to grow. I'm going to go to my first part of my life, which is basically kind of a little bit up to high school. But I will go into, because I was born May 25th, 1957. And those who know that's almost, I'm in my 65th year. So I'm 64. And when the year that I was born, Sputnik, the Russian first little spaceship supposedly went up in space. And that's really part of the, where the war on who is going to control the air. And so Dwight D. Eisenhower was the president of the United States. And Dwight D. Eisenhower was a great general in World War II. He basically was the leader of the war when they did the first invasion in Normandy. So he was basically the head, and then kind of through those things, he became president. He was very stoic. I don't remember too much about him. I've read more about him later. Of course, I'm just born, and so I didn't really know too much about him. And so, but the president, I think that was before him, was Harry S. Truman. And Harry S. Truman lived in Independence. And Independence was it's a city that was a suburb kind of Kansas City. And so President Harry Truman he lived literally in the neighborhood. And so we were able to actually, I've never I've never really seen a president. I've never seen a president since. But Harry S. Truman he lived, I believe it was on Independence Avenue, and it was kind of a thoroughfare, okay? And he had a White House. And so, we would, sometimes we'd take a ride. And you could ride by, and President Truman and his wife, I want to say Bess, were sitting on the porch. So they're sitting on the porch, and you could honk and wave to them, and they would wave back to you. So we grew up with a president actually in the neighborhood. Okay, so So at that time, when I grew up, Kansas City, Missouri, where I'm from, just a kid, not Kansas City, Kansas, although I was born in Kansas City, Kansas. Kansas City, Missouri was segregated. And so when I was born, you couldn't live past 26th Street. All right. So then it kind of, when it changed though, okay. I may have my actual streets. I think it was 26th Street. You could live past 26th Street. I think it was. You could get, so you couldn't live past 26th Street. People started moving in there. Now, when I was 2, it changed to 35th Street. And so my mom and dad, when I was born, they were living in an apartment. My father was, let's see, here's as we know, let's see, my father, who, as you know, passed October 10th, great man. And he was actually he was in the military, and he he was drafted and for the Korean War. All right. So he was in the actual over there, but it was only for a couple of years, and it ended. And then my father was let go. And then after he came back, my mom and dad, they moved past 35th Street. Okay, so 35th Street, once 2 was 35th Street came, and then we moved to 3518 Montgomery. And we had all kinds of relatives that was around us. So our whole family, we were all within just a couple of miles of each other, literally. We could walk to each other's house back then. And they're really considered safe houses for us. So if anything, my mom and dad were gone. All families watched out for each other. On my block, everyone, there was mostly married or elderly people, but the mother and the father were in the house. Everybody looked out for each other. And, it was really a special time for us growing up between the time I was born and kind of like when I went into kindergarten. So there was a strong presence of family. So in my early years, there was very strong for me, from being born to, 5 years old, whatever it is. And I had lots of older cousins who were a great example, men, girls, and boys that were great and protected me and looked out for us. And so, and then my grandmother moved up, and I was actually the second grandchild on my mother's side. Now, on my father's side, there were many people because his family was older. And so, so I'm literally the second oldest of probably, I don't know how many great grandchildren and grandchildren my grandmother had, maybe 27. I think that's what it is. So I'm like the second of that. And then my oldest brother, he was first, and we were 1 year apart. Now, one of the things I'm not going to really talk about my siblings. I had 4 siblings, 3 brothers and 1 sister. And I'm not going to bring their names up because for their own sake of their privacy. I will say that we all walk different paths. And I'll say this: they don't agree with what I'm doing, and I'm not saying I agree with what they do either. So we're just going to keep it at that, and I won't be mentioning their names or anything like that. Okay, so here's my father. I want to tell you a little bit about my father. Now, here's my father's family picture. My father is in the second row to the right with the curly hair. He had 4 sisters that came before him. And so he was the 5th child and the oldest male in the family. Now, my up there onto the top picture to the right is my grandmother. who I never met. She passed, I think, in her 50s. But then my grandfather Isaac, he's up there on the left, second from the left. He died of a heart attack, I believe, when he was like 50. And then my grandmother, she passed just a few years later. So my father basically was an orphan at about 8th grade, and he had to basically get out of school and do the farm. So my father was always, an extreme hard worker. Here's my father now. One of the last pictures, Christmas time. My father was just one of those guys that, was a great example. And he was a very dapper dresser. My father always dressed nice and basically passed it on to us that you always had to, look good. The main thing is to look good. And he always taught me, to dress nice so that people thought that you had some class. And that one of the things I really wanted to thank my father as well as my mother for. Okay. So now here we are. I had lots of cousins, and basically what changed was things changed when I went to school. So we didn't know, because we were kind of protected, we didn't know what the neighborhood was like, but the neighborhood was mostly Black. Okay. We'll just be real about it. It was really all Black. Okay. And so I had to learn at basically 6 years old when I went into first grade. And I went to Blessed Sacrament Catholic school. My mom and dad sent us to Catholic school. They wanted us to have a good education and religious education. And I'm thankful for that. But one of the things that happened to me was the very first week of grade school. And I'm telling you, I'm in first grade. And the very first week that I was in grade school, I was walking down Agnes, which the school was on 39th and Agnes. Okay. So now I know I live on 35th. Okay. So it's about a 6-block walk. And the moment I crossed over the block, the first block, which was 38th, and I went to 37th Street. So I went onto 37th and Agnes when I was jumped by about 6 young kids who ran off their porch and just literally started kicking me, pushing me down, broke my thermos. I'm trying to fight. I have no idea. I'm just a kid. And this had never happened to me. And so, tore up my clothes, and it was such an awakening. And so from then on, getting home was like war for me, starting at 6 years old. And so life it changed. It went from this complete safe haven to being in war. And so to me, it was like I was entering into the army. And, I became a point man who would look down that block. We had to zigzag and zig. And this block, somebody would jump us, and then we'd have to avoid that. And sometimes, so it would almost take, instead of it being a 6-block walk, it usually turned into a mile. Now, when you were 6 years old, that's like 15 miles. Okay, so you have no idea who you were going to actually see who didn't like you. Okay, now John F. Kennedy, if you don't know who he is, John F. Kennedy was the president after that. And so John F. Kennedy was assassinated. And I remember it clear as day. John F. Kennedy, when he was assassinated, and it just literally knocked everybody. I remember I remember when it happened. Okay. And there was an announcement that the president died, was assassinated. And the moans, the screaming you heard throughout the school. Okay. And now remember, this is a Catholic school, and John F. Kennedy was Catholic. And so, I mean, the nuns were just freaking out, screaming and crying. It was like, it was such a rush of what this happened. And you're just a kid, you know. And this was the first time when I really started understanding death. Seeing that, and then them showing it. And then also seeing John F. Kennedy Jr. See, I was there when he went like this live. And that's, we were sitting there upstairs. I remember it was black and white TV back then. And when he did that, because him and I were close to the same age. Okay. And so when he did that, that's when I broke down. That's the first time, and I think the only time I've ever cried for a political politician was when he died. And so things didn't get better at all. Second, third, fourth grade, it was just as bad trying to get home. Apparently, the public school, you didn't realize, public school kids hated people who went to these. They thought we were rich because we were going to a private school. Now, we had a really nice house, 3 stories. We had relatives that used to come and stay with us when they moved from Louisiana. So most of my family moved from Louisiana, all right, from the Bayou, called it on the Bayou. We went to later on when I was in my 40s, we went down there. And I'm going to tell you right now, that was a tough area. Now, I mean, tough area since it was so rural. You know, it was still rural. Growing up down there by the Bayou, okay, that's where my dad, LeBeau, Louisiana was where my dad was born. And they migrated. Our family started migrating to Kansas City. So there's Kansas City or to California. And so most migrated. So like my dad. So basically everyone other than my Aunt 2D, who's up the upper left, she moved to Los Angeles, which I eventually moved to. And then basically everyone else moved to Kansas City. I had an aunt here next to, down there at the bottom middle left there. She passed. She was in an automobile accident, and so she didn't make it past 17 years old. So you know, we're called Creole. Okay, you know, we don't consider ourselves whatever. We consider ourselves Creole. Okay, some say mulattoes. All right, our family was completely mixed. And so people didn't know what I was when they met me. And so anyway, what ended up happening is we actually had to, things got so bad that we moved between 4th and 5th grade. Okay, so 5th grade, we moved to what we considered a better area. And you know, we moved from an all black area, and then we moved into another area about maybe 3 or 4 miles down the road, something like that. We went from 35th Street to 57th, and so mainly it was mixed with white, Hispanic, and black. All right, so now I thought, and we thought that things would get better when we moved to this much nicer area. But then there was its own set of problems. Okay. And I developed a lot of new names that was given to me. And so I'm not going to, this ain't sugarcoating. I'm going to tell you what happened to me. Okay. So the whites started calling me half-breed. They wouldn't say me by my name. The boys, especially the boys, and some of the girls probably behind my back, but the boys definitely just straight up called me half-breed. Didn't even say my name. Then the Hispanics who were there, they called me what's called mestizo. I don't know if that's the right spelling, but that's the closest I can get, which means half-breed in Spanish. Okay. Then the blacks called me white nigger. Here comes the white nigger. So instead of it changing, basically it got worse. Now, at this time, the Vietnam War was going on. Okay. And so a lot of my older cousins, they were being drafted. And we would have prayer sessions for my cousins who ended up having to go to Vietnam or close to it. And it was a really tough time. So I grew up in the Vietnam era, and things have changed just because of that war. After they stopped the draft. All right. So in April of 1975, the war ended right before I graduated from high school. So I did not have to register for the draft. Okay. So, everything that happened to me and how I was treated, it really could have made me resentful, hurtful, weak. I don't know. Sometimes when you get beat up enough, you don't know how to act. All right. But I had to change, and I had to blend in. And so one of the things, and this is one of the things that my father taught me. My father taught me to be funny. And being funny, I want to say is a good quality. It was a good quality for me because I was always trying to make people laugh. And I figured, my dad said, if you can get somebody to laugh, that's half the battle of getting some people to laugh. All right. Also, I became athletic. I started playing basketball and really starting to accelerate in this place of wanted to be better. I had no athletic training because my father was always working. My father worked 7 days a week to make that overtime on the weekend. And so I literally had to learn how to be athletic. Now, before though, I was really I was a mild-mannered kid. All right. I wanted to get along with everybody. I didn't want to get into, fights with people, but what ended up happening is, you just get picked on so much that you just can't take it anymore. And so what happened to me was I developed a terrible temper. I had a real problem starting in sixth grade. Of just getting really angry. And it was this terrible temper, though, that actually saved me, because I got beat up so much, it was hard to fight back. Well, then I started fighting back, and I mean fighting. Okay. And I was fighting everybody. I didn't care. Let's fight. Let's fight. Just started in sixth grade. Let's fight. All right. I got into at least 20 fights or more growing up. Jumped on by 4 and 5 people at a time, and also single fights. And I fought whites, Hispanics, and blacks. It was fighting. Okay. And so, I hated fighting, but I was picked on. What are you going to do? Face is still pretty, man. So there was a reason for that, because I would not I got sick of being picked on. So now, and this is, I want to say this is because this is only part of this is the foundation of me growing up. All right. This is not who, I became but this is how my beginning. And so what I learned was fighting doesn't get you anywhere but more fights. Okay. And so every time after that, every time I started getting into fights and we got called to the office, right? When we get, and I always won in there because they were picking on me, and the sister knew because I was a new kid and that these old guys had been there their whole, grade school, and they grew up together. So I interrupted them. So now, how did I become friends with these people? Well, there's a wisdom. I knew wisdom even back then. And after every fight, even though the ones I won, and I won a lot of them, but I got my butt kicked a lot too now. So believe me, I'll be the first to tell you, I got my butt kicked and I did some kicking butt. But at the end of those fights, they would come up to me and say, good fight. And I said, yeah, I kicked your ass. But you know what, man? Let's call it even. Let's call it even. And those very people who I fought became my friends. And on down the line. If you've seen The Matrix, in one of the scenes, Neo gets challenged by the guy who's going to take him to the Oracle. And he goes, I want to apologize for what I'm going to do. Well, what are you going to do? And he jumped up and he just started trying to fight him. And when he knew that this guy was tough, he said, I had to figure out that you were the one. And Neo goes, well, you just could have asked. He said, no, you don't really know anybody till you fight them. And so that was where they came to this place where they were calling it even. So always, again, this is just the beginning of who I am, but where my basis came, and how I became and went on to become this person who's talking to you now. All right. So perhaps you should go back to your history and just review it, reframe it, and know that you're okay. And you can let that, those bad things that happen to you. I look at those things that everything that happened to me, I look at it as forming me. I no longer have a terrible temper, but it's right there if I need it. Okay. But I always will be funny. All right. So I hope this helps you. I hope this lets you know a little bit about me. Just to let you know, I'm going to be streaming here 2 or 3 times a day. You're going to see a total change in here in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening. You'll be seeing my videos here. So let's see. We got a whole bunch of comments here, and let's get to some of these. Oh, hello, Amanda. How are you? Yeah. Okay. So, yes, JFK may have been Catholic, but he was a womanizers and a sect addict. Of course, all of them did. Okay. All of them did. All right. But yes, you're correct. I knew all about that. Okay. He did some good things too, and this is the way it is, right? Okay. And Amanda says, white N-word, that's me. And there's Tracy. Tracy says, hello. And hello, girl. Amanda is, she's out in Crete, on the Crete Island here. And in case you don't know, and you want to do it your picture. I'm going to show them. Oh, there you are. There's Amanda. Hey, Amanda. Hope you're having fun up there in Crete. So let's get back to some of these comments here. Oh, this is interesting. Tracy, she also had family members in Vietnam. And Amanda also. My dad served in the Navy for the Vietnam War. Well, we haven't even talked about that. Tracy, my dad, stepfather, and grandfather all served, including my beautiful wife, who went 20 years. She felt that she had to serve her country. Her and her sister and her brother all went into the military. Respect. There you go. Why she went it was a family affair. Okay. Amanda, bad temper runs in the family. You know, I want to say something is about women. You don't realize, you know, women, you know, in their own abuse, they develop a bad temper. Okay. You don't realize women are a little bit smarter, but some really let it out. Yes, you're overcoming yours. Good. Because we don't want to stay mad. Okay. All right. Now, my wife, who's like the sweetest person in the world, but her thing is just don't back me into a corner. Man, I don't want to see Tracy mad. Believe me, I've had her mad at me. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yes. Amanda Darling is she's a karate. She takes karate. And so, yes, you fight better when you're not mad, but calm. I don't. Just to let you know that. Tracy, cooler heads makes for dangerous people sometimes because you don't know what they're thinking. Okay. Yes. Like I said, Amanda, I may not know karate, but I knows crazy. So with that, I'm gonna let you go for now. We've gone over our half an hour period. I will be broadcasting one of my videos at 6 o'clock Pacific time and also 7 o'clock a.m. So I'm 7, 12, and 6. 7 a.m., 12, and 12 p.m. and 6 p.m. I'll be coming back on one of my great videos, Solidly Flexible. Be solidly flexible. I will see you then. ALPOUGH. That's me. And I love you. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for everybody. Thanks you for your comments. Love it when you come on. Appreciate it.